Good morning, everybody. I'm back from New York. Actually, Connecticut, I think, is where I was, but then I had to drive down to New York City. An experience when you're trying to get around. I had to be there by 8:55. Well, I had to be there by 7:30, I guess, but then it was the driving. So anyway, it was an experience. And then there were delays, and then there were more delays. But anyway, I'm back. So I'm back in Hillsborough, and I have a guest this morning, which you can see. This is Bianca Chan. And Bianca, you're in North Carolina as well.
Yes. So I'm based in Cary, North Carolina. I don't know how far away that is from Orange County.
Oh, so you're not used to traveling over to Hillsborough, huh?
Mm-mm.
Have you ever been to Chapel Hill?
Yes, I have. My brother actually goes there.
Oh, okay. We'll see then. Okay, so Chapel Hill is probably about, depending on traffic, 40 minutes from where you guys are, 40 minutes more or less, depending on traffic. And I'm about 20 minutes north. But if you come up 85 instead of 40, you could be where I am in about 40 minutes, 45. Yeah, so not that far. But you're involved in a really exciting and interesting project. So talk a little bit about the neurological talk about the institute.
Yeah, so I think it'd be best if I kind of start with why I founded the organization and kind of why I decided to start, getting involved in the community. So I guess it all kind of started back in 8th grade. I'm about to be a senior in high school.
Yay, congratulations.
Thank you. So it started in like 8th grade. So I remember in class, we would learn about like the brain. I think this was PE class or either science class, but we would learn about the brain, like the different regions of the brain, like what would change during, like different activities and also like the cognitive functions of the brain. So I got really interested in that. And then I was exposed to Alzheimer's disease. So I thought it would be really interesting to really learn more about how the brain changes along with the symptoms of the disease. So I then went on to take an online course. It's an online neuroscience course. It's offered by Harvard University.
Oh. So
I took that. And then through that, I learned more about Alzheimer's disease. And then I decided to get more involved in the scientific research of Alzheimer's disease. So I worked with a university neuroscience professor through a research program that following summer. And then we did a in-depth analysis and data analysis on the biomarkers of Alzheimer's disease. And then as I was, doing this research, I really wanted to be able to connect with these patients. So that's what I did. I connected with these patients, I interacted with them, and I got to know their personal stories. So I got to know what part of the illness they were most, affected by, and also their families and caregivers. So as I was listening to these stories, I realized that there were two primary constraints that, blocked them from access to, major healthcare services, support and care services. And that's the financial barrier and also the geographical barrier that a lot of them face. Because more often times in more rural areas, they might not have access to these, services.
Yep.
So I really wanted to be able to connect, to kind of bridge that gap. So that's why I found
it. So I'm going to pause you, Bianca, because, there's all kinds of huge national, international projects that identify what's making it so hard. And it's like, well, you very clearly have identified not from the research side of it, but from the personal experience side, when you went out and met people and met their families and talked with them about the lived experience, their experience living with their condition, that really got you thinking and recognizing the two biggest challenges for folks is our healthcare system and financial support system for people living with dementia is not reasonable as far as really helping people get maybe what they need. And then, of course, there's the where they live thing makes such a big difference about the kind of services they have access to, the kind of support structure it's available for them and their families. And so you do other research to inform yourself, but it was really by talking with and being involved with people who are actually living with dementia and their families that your big aha, how can I help locally? What can I do that might make a difference? And so that's where you got your big idea of what you were going to do to support care better.
Mhm.
I'm thinking.
Yes, so I really connected with these families one-on-one, because I think it's really important to hear from like the family side of like what's going on, and to kind of really better understand how we could help those with this illness, like where we could best fit their needs and these patients. So that's kind of how I got started. Yeah.
Yeah. And so what you were looking for is, what can I right now contribute, not just in the future, like when I graduate and I'm done with college and I do my postdoc, which I've got a feeling you're going to go all the way on this. But for right now, you went and worked with folks on research. So you clearly have that. I need to know what's the science. But then there was this art aspect, because when you look at how brains change and what's sustained and what's lost and what can we use, this is where you got sort of interested in, well, how about if? So now move on into what it is you're up to now.
Yeah. So after I started this organization in my sophomore year, I think it was back in 2021, so around 2 years ago, we started providing, free support and care services to patients in all of North Carolina. So we want to reach all 100 counties of North Carolina. So whether it's like in Wilmington, in the Triangle area, or in Western North Carolina, we really want to reach all patients. So one of our primary initiatives is designing these Alzheimer's support kits called NeuroBoxes. So these products are donated to elderly care homes and also to individual patients on a regular basis, and it consists of activities such as puzzles, coloring books, just any cognitive stimulation activities. So we design these boxes and then we deliver them to different patients and their families all across North Carolina. And then one of our other programs is a music program called NeuroMelodies. So basically in this program, we have student volunteers from local music groups or different orchestras or bands, or even just solo piano players. They would come in and then they would either do a live or virtual sessions for these patients in these elderly care homes. So far, we have worked with around 40 senior resident communities, and then we've reached around 2,000 patients. So we work with patients, that are from like memory cafes, support groups, different organizations, obviously memory care homes and resident communities. But we really wanted to, reach patients from all types of communities and all types of backgrounds.
Cool. So now this is interesting. So how did we run across one another? How did you find us, or how did we find you, or how did that connection happen?
I think it was I think it was off the directory of, it was through the Duke Dementia Family Program. So I subscribed to their newsletter. So I found out that you guys have some events going on, so I wanted to reach out.
Cool. So this is what networking is about, because as we start to learn about what each of us is doing and how it might interface and how we might interlock and actually build stronger support systems in community, what we can start to realize is, oh, look, here's somebody over here starting to do this. Here's somebody over here offering this. There are people out there in all different spaces and places. So one of the things, Bianca, that coming from where you come from, you use the word patient, which is an interesting phrase, because that's where your background is coming from. And so one of the things I use is, so there are people living with dementia. So they're sort of my clients, they're clients. And so why do you think that difference might exist?
Yeah, so I think when you use like the client word more rather than the patient, where when you're using the patient, where you're characterizing people just based on their disease, and when you're using the client word, you're you're saying that you can help them in some way, but they don't exist because of their disease.
Ooh, wow. And now where are you in school again?
I'm about to be a senior.
You're rising senior, right? I mean, you're not in undergrad, you're in high school. Is this correct?
Mm-hmm.
So what do you think about the development of your prefrontal cortex? Just out of curiosity, how do you think your frontal lobe is developing, your prefrontal, your executive control? Do you think it's typical for people your age?
I think that with, like if you're putting enough time and effort into developing certain skills and you're really paying attention to, the little things in life, I think that you can develop the prefrontal cortex pretty early. And I think it's just, making the effort.
Okay, but that wasn't the question I asked. I asked, are you typical or atypical?
I would say, at least with the peers I'm surrounded with, I would say I'm pretty typical.
Okay, now think of everybody in your high school.
I would say pretty atypical.
And what's about that discovery? I mean, because what I see is this intense development of the ability to see other people's perspectives and appreciate the diversity and the neurodiversity that's out there, and being real respectful of it and being supportive of, regardless of the diversity, there's ways to enhance people's lives and their brains by being thoughtful and being considerate, but also looking at your own skill set and realizing I could use some help here. I'm really good at this. A choice. I'm going to initiate, move forward, and then I'm going to adjust and adapt. And that ability, places you in this range. If we compare you to other folks your age, I've got to say, honestly, although you may hang out with some other folks like that, and I also, in the history of my story, I was sort of in that ballpark with my need at that time was for developmental disabilities, or kids who were coming out of institutions at the time, having been taken from families didn't know how to care for them, placed in state-run facilities, and then the state-run facilities said that this didn't work, so they sent them back to their families without a lot of support. And that was my experience when I was in junior high to high school. So we started doing some similar kinds of programs, but we were doing it for special needs, quote unquote, kids with cerebral palsy, kids who had autism and, might have had all kinds of Down syndrome at the time is what it was called. We were doing a whole bunch of really different kinds of things, but we were a very small group compared to the larger population of our high school. And we were super curious about things. And so that curiosity about, I wonder if, led to a lot of things. And that's what's happening for you. So it's not just you got curious and you were developing your own brain. That brain development is leading you to really reach out into community, and the potential for building something bigger and more effective in this very huge landscape that we have of need. Mm-hmm. Wow. So where are you now, and how can we as a community, because we have people not only in North Carolina, our reach is at this point global. We have people from Australia, from South Africa, from the UK, from Poland. We have folks in Hawaii, over in Alaska, up in the Cree Nation, up above in Canada, down in South America. We have folks who might hear this in all those different locations. So when you hear that, what would you want your message to be for folks?
Yeah, so for, are you talking about, these individuals and their families, or are you talking about, people that you work with?
I don't know. I'm talking about for you, when I hit that door and say, so here's a door that, is also out there, Bianca. I know you're where you are doing what you're doing, which is great in North Carolina, and you have a reach in North Carolina. But when I say that, my curiosity is well, what happens in your brain when I even say that stuff?
Yeah, I would say that I definitely want to reach beyond North Carolina. I really want to work with, individuals outside of the state. And right now it's definitely kind of difficult because, we like to do in-person sessions and in-person, services. But I would say because Zoom is such, a great platform, yep, we can always do, online social gatherings for people with this disease. And then, I can invite in, care specialists or people who are trained to, lead these kind of groups to bring all these individuals together across, different states and even different countries. And I think that would be really great because it's really good to connect with those of different cultural backgrounds and then kind of connect with them about their disease in that way. So I think that would be really, really helpful.
Cool. All right. Well, I think we'll have some opportunities that come up. And I also think the work that you're doing is pretty remarkable in that you've got a real practical side of it. You've got a really concrete side of it. You also want to make sure as you're doing all this that you have in your head, okay, now where am I? You don't know yet. You sort of do, but I'm sure that opportunities will come up. You'll still be exploring kinds of interesting opportunities. But wow, I think there's a lot of wow going on out there. I know folks might want to know how to connect with you, and you want to control that, and we want to be thoughtful about it. So we can talk to you afterward about how best to do that. But wow. Matthew, do we have any questions out there? I'll have you pop on here at the end because I know you're on Facebook to look at what sort of other than wow, which I think is probably one of the typical things that's going to happen having listened to Bianca.
Yeah, especially when we heard that you're going to be a senior in high school, Bianca. I think just that idea of like, wow, you're at this part of life where most teenagers are just trying to figure out how to navigate life itself, but you're stepping beyond and doing so many amazing things. So huge applause, lots of love and reactions in the chat. I think definitely that idea of connecting with you and the best place. So I did put on the comment thread your website. So that being a place that folks can connect with you, as well as the Instagram page. And then I did put the link to the Google Drive that's got all of those recording sessions and music pieces that you were talking about. So if there's anything else out there that would be good for folks to get connected with you, because I have a feeling people are going to want to get connected with you and figure out, man, where did you start? What was some of the stuff that you did? How could we bring this into what we're doing in our spaces and places? So is there another place, or are all of those the best spot to connect?
I think all of those are the best spots. So yeah, I think those are good.
Cool. So how many folks are in your group? That's the other curiosity I have there.
So I'm like the main person leading my group, but I definitely have like a lot of volunteers. So these are high school volunteers and they're my peers. And then, yeah, it's been really great working with them.
Excellent. Well, we want to thank you for what you're doing. And we also want to thank you for coming on. And I look forward to possibly having you come over to Hillsborough and play at our house a little bit.
Yeah, I would love to.
Yeah, because I think we might have some opportunities that might actually be really helpful for the work you're doing. Plus, we might be able to get some connections. I don't know if you're thinking of Duke or UNC, or if you're thinking of going elsewhere for college, but we might be able to see who I know that you might want to get to know.
Yeah, I'm definitely either thinking of Duke or UNC. I want to stay in state, so.
Well, we'll see what we can connect up for you.
Okay. All right. Yeah. Thank you for having me today. It was really great talking to you.
Absolutely, Bianca. It's really cool and amazing to know that you're out there. And I'm so glad you discovered us.
Yeah, I'm really glad to work with you guys in the future.
Thank you, Bianca. All right, everybody. So have a wonderful day. Take care with your care. And if you have any interest in listening to music, and recognize, we know music makes a huge difference in people's worlds, in people's brains, and in people's lives. Check out the website. Or if you want a kit, because they'd be happy to deliver. Thanks all.
Thank you so much.
Thanks, guys. Bye, everybody.